3 armed men surrounded my yard. Their black suits clung to their bodies, the last rays of sunlight glinting off the metal of their weapons, headsets, radios. They looked professional, until you've worked with real professionals for 12 years and can spot the fakes at a glance. "HOA security team, open the door," they shouted. The tone was threatening but amateurish. Watching them from the kitchen window, my pulse didn't even quicken. Pinecrest Gardens didn't have an HOA. My name is Jake Morrison. I'm a former Marine sniper who's worked in the most dangerous places on Earth, from the streets of Fallujah to the valleys of Helmand. This wasn't new to me, only the setting had changed. Still, I worried for my wife and daughter because they didn't have my experience. I managed to calm them down, telling them everything was fine. I'm 43, and I live here in Pinecrest Gardens, Florida, with my wife, Sarah, and our 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Our house is modest but cozy. White clapboard siding, dark blue window trim, a small front porch, and a green lawn where Emma sprints and plays every morning. I spent 12 years as a Marine Corps sniper. I earned medals, I lost brothers, and eventually I came home, tired but standing. Now I'm a retired veteran working as a security consultant. Life had been predictable and quiet. Until 6 months ago, when our next-door neighbor, Linda Whitmore, started knocking on my door one morning. Linda was a classic Karen, the dangerous kind. 55, platinum blonde hair, always pinned perfectly, never without her Louis Vuitton bag. She looked down her nose at everyone, as if the neighborhood were her kingdom. When she first showed up, she smiled and said she was collecting signatures to beautify our neighborhood. She declared herself HOA president, despite nobody electing her. Clipboard in hand, fake official-looking documents at her side. At first, she seemed harmless, an overzealous neighbor, but it didn't take long for her real face to show. Linda craved power and was obsessed with control. Things went bad fast. Linda started inspecting every house on the block, with no real authority. Grass 2 centimeters too tall, $150 fine. Garage door the wrong color, $200. Every week another violation notice arrived. The funny thing was, Pinecrest Gardens never had an HOA. Linda had invented the whole thing and began bullying neighbors into paying. Some of our elderly neighbors paid out of fear. When I got my first bill, I tore it up and threw it away. I called her, "Linda, there's no HOA here." "Stop sending me bills." Her voice over the phone was ice cold. "You'll regret this, Mr. Morrison." Over the following weeks, her harassment became systematic. Thick envelopes stamped urgent showed up on doorsteps. One night we came home to find "Follow the Rules" spray-painted on our garage door. Emma cried. Sarah looked pale as plaster. Trash started appearing in our yard. Pizza boxes, broken bottles, rotten fish. The smell was unbearable. One Saturday afternoon, while Emma and her friends were playing, Linda marched up to our front door. Her heels clicked on the stone path. Click, click, click. She pounded the door. "You are creating noise pollution," she yelled. Emma's friends froze. "They're 8 years old laughing, Linda. Is that a crime?" I asked. Linda pointed a finger in my face. "Rules apply to children too, Mr. Morrison." Sarah stepped in. "Which rules, Linda?" "Show us the law!" Linda grinned on a cold, cruel smile. "You'll both regret crossing me." There was nothing she could legally do. She just wanted to intimidate. We had nothing to pay her with anyway. The next day, our neighbor Dave Martinez, 46, a retired firefighter, pulled me aside. Dave's house was 2 doors down, painted yellow with kids' bikes in the yard. "Jake, I need to talk," he said quietly. We went into my garage. Dave's hands were shaking. Seeing those hands tremble shook me. "This woman is dangerous, Jake. Last week she demanded $500 from me." I refused. That night, someone slashed all 4 tires on my car. They left a note on my windshield. "Next time will be worse." His voice trailed off. "I have kids, Jake. She's scaring them." That's when I realized this was organized extortion. Old soldier instincts kicked in. "Don't worry, Dave. We'll handle this. But we need to document everything." The only way to beat people like her was with evidence and legal pressure. That night, I went down to the basement. In the corner sat an old metal cabinet, a time capsule I hadn't opened in years. I took the key. The lock creaked, and inside were surveillance tools. Night vision cameras, audio recorders, motion sensors. Tools I'd hoped I'd never need but always kept ready. Sarah came down the stairs with 2 cups of coffee. "Are you serious?" she asked when she saw me holding a small camera. "Linda's threatening our family, Jake. Emma is crying. Dave's kids are scared. I promise I'll handle this legally. But first we need proof." Sarah nodded. "I'm with you, always." That night I put 6 cameras around the house. Whatever Linda did next, it would be recorded. Having my wife behind me felt good. "Would your partner stand by you if this happened to you?" 2 days later, Linda came back, this time not alone. It was around 3 p.m. The doorbell rang, insistent, annoying. When I opened the door, Linda stood there with a short, puffy-faced man in a cheap gray suit, sweating. He introduced himself as Ronald Becker, legal representative. He held a brown folder. "Mr. Morrison?" Linda said with a smile. "Mr. Becker has an important legal notice for you." Becker opened the file. "Mr. Morrison, you have $5,000 in outstanding HOA fees. If you don't pay within 7 days, we'll place a lien on your property." I laughed. "On what authority?" "There is no HOA here." The man started sweating. Linda cut in. "If you don't pay, our security team will be deployed." Every word was caught on camera. "Get off my property," I said calmly. Linda's face flushed. "You'll regret this, Morrison," she spat. Threats were all she had. That night at 2 a.m., the motion sensors tripped. I watched the live feed on my phone. 3 men in black climbed over the fence carrying spray cans. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. Through the night vision camera, I saw one of them pull out a crowbar. Another checked his waistband, the unmistakable outline of a handgun. This wasn't just vandalism anymore. This was a break-in. My training kicked in instantly. I moved to Emma's room first. Silent, fast, tactical. She was sleeping peacefully, her teddy bear clutched tight. I closed her door and locked it from the outside with the emergency bolt I'd installed. Then Sarah's. She stirred. "Jake?" "Stay in the room, lock it." "Don't come out until I say so," I whispered. Her eyes went wide, but she trusted me. The lock clicked. I went to my closet. Behind the winter coat sat my gun safe. I punched the code. Beep, 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 click. Inside, my Glock 19, loaded magazine beside it. I hadn't touched it in 2 years. My hands moved automatically. Insert mag, rack slide, chamber round, safety off. Muscle memory from 1,000 drills. I wasn't looking for a fight. But if they came inside, if they threatened my family, I was ready. I moved quietly to the back door and activated the spotlight I'd mounted there. The yard flooded with light, 5,000 lumens bright as day. The 3 men froze in shock, hands up to shield their eyes. One of them cursed loud enough for me to hear through the glass. I lifted my phone with one hand, Glock low and ready in the other, and said clearly, "Police? Yes, there's an armed trespass on my property. 3 suspects. I am armed and defending my home. I need immediate assistance." Dispatch responded, "Officers en route. Stay on the line. Do not engage." But the man with the crowbar didn't run. He looked right at the camera, right at me, and smiled. Then he smashed my back window. Glass exploded inward. That's when I knew. This wasn't about intimidation anymore. They were coming in. I stepped into the hallway, positioned myself between the intruders and my family's rooms. The Glock felt heavy and cold in my hands. "This is your last warning," I shouted. "I am armed. The police are on their way. Leave now." For 5 seconds, the longest 5 seconds of my life, nobody moved. Then sirens wailed in the distance. The man with the crowbar cursed again, and all 3 scattered like rats. Their faces had been recorded. The game was over. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Officer Rodriguez, middle-aged, experienced, reviewed the footage. "Mr. Morrison, this looks like an organized extortion operation," he said. "Hand over everything you have. We'll arrest Linda Whitmore and her crew." Dave Martinez and other neighbors filed complaints. Linda's fake HOA had targeted at least 30 families and collected around $80,000. Rodriguez told me, "You're lucky, Mr. Morrison. Your military background taught you to handle this professionally." I smiled. "Officer, I've dealt with far worse for 12 years. Linda's just a bad actor." Now there was only one thing left to do. Let justice run its course. Linda's arrest happened at 6 a.m. and I watched every second of it from my window. Police cars rolled down the street quietly. Their red and blue lights hadn't flashed yet, the operation moving like a silent, lethal hunt. 4 cruisers, 2 unmarked cars. Officer Rodriguez and his team lined up at Linda's house, professional, organized, determined. They knocked once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice cut through the morning. "Police! Open the door!" Linda stumbled out in a pink robe, hair a mess, makeup washed away, her face tired and terrified. As the handcuffs snapped around her wrists, she screamed, "This is a mistake! I didn't do anything!" Rodriguez looked at her coldly. "Linda Whitmore, you are under arrest for organized fraud, extortion, unlawful entry, and making threats." Her head went down. Then she looked straight at me, eyes full of anger, hatred, and shock. "You ruined me, Morrison," she shouted. I watched silently from the window. I didn't answer. I hadn't ruined her. She'd done that to herself. That morning, the whole neighborhood came alive. People poured into the streets. Old Mr. Thompson, 82, a retired teacher, slowly made his way over with his walker, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, son. She stole $2,000 from my pension," he said, voice full of gratitude and shame. Across the way, Maria, a young mother with 2 small kids, was crying, "Jake, you saved us. I couldn't sleep from fear." Dave Martinez hugged me hard. The man couldn't hold back tears. "You protected my family, Jake. I don't know how to thank you." Emma ran up from the yard and wrapped her little arms around my legs. "Daddy, is that bad lady gone now?" I knelt, stroked her hair, and said, "Yes, baby. She's gone. No one will scare you anymore." Emma smiled, the first real, relaxed smile in 6 months. In that moment, I knew every minute was worth it. In the following weeks, the evidence kept piling up. When Rodriguez's team searched Linda's house, they found shocking things: fake documents, illegal money transfers, threatening messages, and most unsettling, proof that she'd run the same extortion scheme in other neighborhoods. She wasn't working alone. Beyond Ronald Becker and those 3 armed men, she had partners in other towns. The operation had become statewide. The FBI stepped in. 23 people were arrested. Linda's empire had pulled around $450,000 from a dozen neighborhoods over 7 years, all through bogus HOA threats. The evidence I'd collected formed the backbone of the investigation. One day, Rodriguez walked into my office and said with a grin, "Morrison, you single-handedly helped break up an organized crime ring. The FBI's talking about you." I just shrugged. "I was protecting my family, officer." The trial lasted 3 months. The courtroom was packed at every hearing: victims, journalists, curious onlookers. Linda Whitmore and Ronald Becker sat side by side, once arrogant and powerful, now exhausted, beaten, and ruined. The prosecutor presented the case piece by piece: video and audio recordings, fake documents, bank records, victim testimony. I took the stand. The prosecutor asked, "Mr. Morrison, what did you feel when Linda first threatened you?" I looked at her and said, "I wasn't afraid. 12 years in the military taught me what real threats look like. Linda was just a bully. Bullies fold when someone stands up to them." The courtroom was silent. Linda's head remained bowed. After reviewing the evidence, the judge said, "I have not seen such an organized and systematic fraud operation in a long time." The verdict followed. Linda Whitmore, 7 years federal prison. Ronald Becker, 5 years. The other defendants received sentences ranging from 2 to 4 years. The gavel fell. Justice had been served. When I walked out of the courthouse, the sun hit my face. Warm, bright, full of hope. Sarah and Emma were by my side. Dave and other neighbors waited outside applauding. Local news cameras flashed, but I didn't give comments. I just smiled and walked on. Rodriguez came up and asked, "Morrison, this is only the beginning. The FBI wants you as a consultant on organized crime. Would you consider it?" For a moment I thought of the old days, the missions, the rush, the purpose. Then I looked down at Emma's hand in mine. "Officer, thank you. But my duty is here now, to my family. I've fought enough." Rodriguez nodded with respect. That evening, the neighborhood threw a barbecue. Kids played, adults laughed, and Emma curled up on my lap and asked, Daddy, is everything okay now? I stroked her hair. Yes, sweetheart. Everything's okay. Weeks passed and life returned to a real normal. The money taken by Linda was returned to the victims by court order. Mr. Thompson got his pension back. Maria could finally sleep through the night. Dave's family laughed again. The neighborhood was peaceful. No more fake threats, no more late-night vandalism, no more fear. Just neighbors, friendship, and trust. One Saturday morning, playing with Emma in the yard, Sarah brought me a coffee. Jake, I saw you on TV last night. They called you the neighborhood hero, she said with a smile. I laughed. I just did what was right, Sarah. Anyone would have done the same. She shook her head. No, Jake, not everyone would. You're special. I'm proud of you. Emma shouted from across the lawn. Dad, come play hide and seek. I ran after her under the sun in our yard. I'd fought in some of the darkest places on earth for 12 years. But maybe the most important fight was won right here, in front of my home. A month later, Dave and I sat on the porch with drinks, watching the sun go down. Jake, what do you think Linda's thinking in prison? Dave asked. I thought for a moment. She probably still sees herself as a victim. Some people never learn, Dave. They always blame others. He nodded. You taught us a lot, Jake. Not to stay silent, but to fight the right way. I smiled. You know, the military taught me one thing. True strength isn't about the weapon. It's about making the right choice at the right moment. Violence is a last resort. I could have punched Linda or scared her off, but then I'd be no different than she was. Instead, I gathered evidence, used the law, and let the system work. Dave put a hand on my shoulder. That's why you're our hero. You showed us the right way. That night, as I lay down, Sarah curled up beside me. Jake, today Emma told her teacher, my dad is a hero, she said softly. She looked into my eyes. You're my hero. You didn't just stop Linda. You made me and Emma feel safe. You taught us that doing the right thing wins. I kissed her. Sarah, I just protected my family, she smiled. That's your superpower, Jake. You always do the right thing. You never give up. For the first time in a long while, I slept deeply. No nightmares, no worry, no threats. Just peace. My family was safe, my neighbors were happy, and justice had been done. As a soldier, my duty was over. This time, the battlefield had been my own front yard. Months went by, and Linda's story became local legend. New neighbors would ask, You're Jake Morrison? The neighborhood had become a true community. The fear she'd sown replaced by trust. One night, putting Emma to bed, she said, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you. Why, sweetheart? I asked. Because you protect everyone. You stop bad people. And you never do anything mean. My heart swelled. Emma, remember this. True strength comes from protecting others, not hurting them. Violence isn't the answer. Patience, intelligence, and justice. Those are the real weapons. She nodded and closed her eyes. Later, I sat alone on the porch, looking up at the same stars I'd stared at years ago in Afghanistan. But this time I wasn't at war. I was home, safe, with the people I loved in a peaceful neighborhood. And Linda Whitmore? She was a memory headed to prison. A year later, hardly anyone in the neighborhood even remembered Linda Whitmore. Life had moved on. Kids had grown, families had expanded, new neighbors had arrived. Pinecrest Gardens had truly become a home. I was still working as a security consultant, but in a different way now, giving talks about law, ethics, and justice. Officer Rodriguez would drop by for coffee from time to time. Morrison, he'd say, you've inspired a lot of people. You showed them what it means to fight the right way. One Sunday morning, Emma was riding her bike in the yard. Sarah was watering her flowers, and I sat on the porch watching them. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real, peaceful, and safe. I'd spent 12 years serving in war zones, but maybe this was my greatest victory. Protecting my family, standing up for my neighbors, and letting justice prevail. And I'd done it without violence, only with patience, logic, and the right choices. Because true strength isn't about pulling a trigger. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. Linda Whitmore learned that lesson too late. I, on the other hand, was living it every day. So what about you? If you ever faced something like this, what would you do? Stay silent and look the other ways, or stand up for your rights? Does justice always win, or do we sometimes have to make it win? Share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you've lived through a story like this too. And remember, sometimes the quietest people are the strongest. And sometimes the greatest heroes are born right in front of their own homes.